welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo. So, the film that I will be discussing is Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill is a 1974 blaxploitation horror film. It is directed by Paul Maslansky, who's known for being the producer of the Police Academy series. The film is written by Tim Kelly, is known for Black Fist. The film stars Marki Bey, Robert Quarry, and Don Pedro Colley. Here is the synopsis. When nightclub owner Langston, played by Larry D. Johnson, refuses to sell out to local mob boss Morgan, played by Robert Quarry, he is beaten to death by a gang of hired thugs. His grief-stricken fiancée, Diana Sugar Hill, played by Marki Bey, vows revenge for his murder and turns to age voodoo authority Mama Matrice, played by Zara Colley. Together they conjure up the demonic spirit of Baron Samedi, played by Don Pedro Colley, who agrees to help Sugar. He raises an army of zombies and sets them upon Langston's killers. The film was released on February 6, 1974. In regards to critical reception, it has a 3.2 rating in Letterboxd, and at the time of this recording, it is available to stream on Shudder and AMC Plus, and is available on demand. So check your local provider. All right, let's get into first discovery. Prior to compiling the list of films to cover for this season of the podcast, I was not aware of this movie. But while doing research on underrated black exploitation movies, this movie popped up, and after reading, I guess, the synopsis and viewing the trailer of this movie, I figured why not cover this? And I saw what the other day that there was a editorial on Letterboxd where they highlighted different black exploitation films, and this movie was mentioned. Uh, so, in case if you haven't seen that list, you could check it out on Letterboxd. But anyway, so about this movie, so after watching it the first time, I'm like, okay, it's not bad. I would say it's quite enjoyable at times. There are aspects of this movie to enjoy. I don't know if I would put it high up there in terms of black exploitation films for me, but I would say it's very appreciative in terms of um, how the black exploitation eras used to show like different styles as opposed to just being known for the one style. Because usually black exploitation films, action movies come to mind, such as Black Belt Jones, Truck Turner, which I have covered before on this podcast, and of course a lot of Pam Grier's films and so forth. But at least here it's nice to see a different side to that genre here, I guess, with the horror genre. And I'm not a big horror person myself, but I have learned to appreciate the genre, even though it's not for me. But yeah, I would say for the movie itself, it's, I would say, enjoyable. Let's get into the highlights. So I like the idea of the movie. Essentially, for the main character to use voodoo to get revenge, I find it sounds fascinating. I think there could have been more use of horror and suspense, but when it came to the use of the voodoo in this movie, I thought was quite effective. And like with those scenes with Sugar and Baron Samedi essentially going after the targets in the movie, for me, I would say it works. I would say. And also, too, as a highlight, Club Haiti. So, Club Haiti is the club that Langston, Sugar's boyfriend, owned, but now Sugar owns that club. And I find, in a way, it offers sort of like an escapism because it's very, I would say, tropical with the decor and the layout of the club. Like it doesn't look like a typical nightclub. It looks like something you would see at a resort, I would say. And it was interesting that with the ritual that was done at the beginning, like I thought that was actually happening, but it turned out it was part of a an act or performance. So yeah, I feel like I don't know, like this would be a fun club, I would say, to visit in real life. But yeah, I would say it doesn't look like the typical nightclub. So kudos to that. Also, too, let's talk about Sugar. I thought Sugar handled herself well, and I would say she's quite capable. Now, in regards to, I guess, female protagonists in the black exploitation era, I wouldn't say she's top tier because I would say Pam Grier obviously is high up there with Foxy Brown and Coffee as examples. But Sugar, I would say, can hold her own. Even though she relies on magic to essentially go after her enemies, at least she's able to handle herself. Particularly in the moment when she fights Celeste, because Celeste, like she does, you know, hit her a couple times in that scene, but at least Sugar is able to get the upper hand and all that stuff. So yeah, I would say Sugar is quite the badass in this movie, and Marki Bey, I would say, did a great job playing this character. Also, to Baron Samdi, he's quite the charmer, but is also eccentric at the same time. After watching this movie, um, I thought of like that character in The Princess and the Frog, Shadow Man slash Doctor Facilier. That was the character I guess that Baron Samdi reminded me of. And then when I researched this, apparently with that movie, The Princess and the Frog, they I guess used Baron Samdi in this movie as one of the influences for that character. So I found that's interesting. And also too, also in a way, also reminded me of I guess there was another character named Baron Samdi in Live and Let Die. So yeah, I found that was quite interesting on that front. But also too with the character, I like how even though he's quite the character, eccentric and all that stuff, he shows I would say different side to him. Like obviously he uses that to manipulate the targets to essentially fall into the trap and all that stuff, which leads to their demise, obviously. But yeah, and also too it was hilarious that he, when we're first introduced to the character, he wanted more gifts when Sugar and Mama Matrice visit him. So in ways, he's quite greedy, but um, but quite powerful, I would say, in his own right. And it's interesting that towards the end, he takes Celeste to be his gift from Sugar as opposed to her sacrificing herself. But uh, but yeah, I would say Baron Samdi is quite the character, and the villains are quite villainous in this movie and racist. But I guess that comes part of the territory with this. Because of Morgan, obviously he's quite the bully, being the mob boss and all that stuff. Because after when his henchmen beat Langston to death, he refers to Langston as garbage and all that stuff. And then at a certain point, he kind of looks down upon the black henchman. I'm blanking on his name. So yeah, and then even though with Morgan, um, you know, kind of treats Sugar with respect, but he does that, to in order to get her to get the club and all that stuff. But yeah, he's quite the villain in this movie. And Celeste, she treats Sugar more harshly than Morgan, I would say. It feels in ways it's personal, probably because she feels threatened by her because Morgan is spending more time with Sugar. I mean, obviously to get the club and all that stuff, but I think it feels like part of it is jealousy, but also too, racist and all that stuff. But yeah, those are the villains in this movie, and also too the look of the zombies. They're quite they're very gray and dusty in this movie, but in terms of the look, it reminded me of a cross between the zombies in Michael Jackson's Thriller video and bugs that have like those huge eyes, sort of like a fly. If you mix those together, that's the zombies in this movie. And but yeah, but they really look quite dead though, because clearly, like, you can't really see their eyes, because as that saying goes, eyes are the window of the soul, and clearly with the dead here, they don't have a soul, so they did a great job of that execution. and and yeah, they're quite threatening, I would say, in this movie. Like whenever you see the scenes of them going after the targets, I mean, they're not to be messed with, essentially. Also, too, Sugar's outfit. It's interesting that when we see her going after the Morgan's men, essentially, she wears this white jumpsuit with an afro. It's kind of like her combat outfit. So I found that was an interesting choice. I don't know if white was the right color, because white gets is easy to get dirty with that color. But otherwise, she looked fantastic in that outfit. And Mama Matrice, her mansion is quite big. It's very big, and interesting. Like at the beginning, it's very old on the outside, very dusty, filled with spider webs and all that stuff. Even though she lives in that house, there's not much maintenance there, and I wonder if that was done intentionally to prevent people from coming in. But I also wonder at the same time too that would attract looters to get into the mansion. But since she's there, she'll be able to draw them off, obviously. But yeah, it's quite big. And Mama Beatrice, she's not bad in this movie too. Even though she may not look physically threatening, but outside of that, like, she's capable and all that stuff. And yeah, there was a lot of, I noticed, real snakes and alligators in this movie. Gee, I imagine, like, because this was made in the 70s, like, they had to use that stuff. And hopefully they had, like, the animal wranglers and all that stuff. But yeah, that made me scared while seeing that on screen. And hopefully, like, while filming this movie, it went smoothly on that part. um, because a moment came to mind in Live and Let Die when Bond has to cross the stack of alligators to get to the other side of the bridge. If you've seen the behind the scenes of that movie, particularly if that scene showed that the stunt double had to do it multiple times and there were real alligators used, and essentially at one point I think the stuntman almost got caught by one of the alligators, but luckily was able to pull through. But that was scary. But yeah, just every time when I see those on screen, yeah, it just makes me scared and all that stuff. I find Valentine, he's not bad as the lead detective in this movie. But I would say his injury was hilarious. So essentially, I think Baron Samedi wanted to kill him, but Sugar only wanted to harm him so that he doesn't prevent her from, carry on her revenge, essentially. So Baron Samedi pokes the needle on the leg of the voodoo doll, But then it cuts to Valentine clearly in pain. He's holding his leg, and it looked like he falls down the stairs, but that's done in slow motion. I thought that was hilarious the way that was executed. But yeah, poor Valentine on that front. But yeah, it happens. And lastly, the theme song. I would say the theme song is cool. The song "Supernatural Voodoo Woman" by the Originals, I find is quite soulful and funky. It's very mid tempo because usually with a lot of theme music that's used for black exploitation movies are very upbeat. But here is mid tempo, so I find like it works. I would say in regards to the context of the film. And I would say it's worth the listen. I don't know if it's available on streaming platforms, but I was able to find it on YouTube to listen, so you could check it out there. All right, let's get into the lowlights. So I don't have much to add here. I felt that I would say my main complaint is that I felt it was too easy for Sugar to defeat Morgan and his thugs. Because clearly she had the voodoo with the help of Baron Samdi and Mama Matrius. I just felt, yeah, like it felt way too easy. And sure, like, yeah, we wanted to root for her and all that stuff. But I think at the same time, there needed to be some struggles. So I think that could have been better on that front. And I think the pacing could have been a bit tighter. Like I didn't like the runtime didn't drag for me, but I just think it could have been tightened here and there. So that's pretty much it for lowlights I had. For trivia, not much I could find for this movie. But here's one. The Voodoo Museum and Research History Building is, in fact, the Heights branch of the Houston Public Library. The building was constructed in 1925. In real life, the building is a registered trademark sorry, the building is a registered historical landmark in the state of Texas. That's interesting. Interesting. Also, too, the film was released theatrically in the U.S. by American International Pictures in February 1974. It was cut to 83 minutes and retitled "The Zombies of Sugar Hill" for U.S. TV. The film was released on VHS by Orion Home Video in 1996 and on DVD as part of MGM's limited edition series in October 2011. I mean, that's interesting. They decided to use a different title, The Zombies of Sugar Hill, even though it's not really her zombies, but okay. And lastly, rapper Daniel DeMille, aka MF Doom, sampled several audio clips from the film under his alias King Ghidorah on his album Take Me to Your Leader. Interesting. So, if you guys have listened to that album, I would love to know your thoughts on the use of the clips from this movie in that one. Alrighty, lastly, should this movie be rediscovered? And I would say yes. Because I find this like interesting to see how the black exploitation era used the horror genre here. So I find like I'm not a big horror fan, but I found it was quite entertaining, even though there could have been more thrills and suspense and all that stuff. But yeah, that's what I have here. So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So you can find me on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at Nomfanelo. You can find the podcast on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. You can visit buymeacoffee.com/rdmoviespod to support via donation and to view exclusive posts. You could join the Rediscovered Movies Hub, which is a version of Discord. It's our community group on our official website, which is rdmoviespod.wixsite.com/official, where there you can interact with others, share thoughts on the podcast, and more. On Spotify, you can answer the feature poll, leave a comment, and rate the podcast. You can leave a review and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Podchaser. And you can submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you could fill the contact form on Linktree to be featured on a Q&A episode, which will air after the end of this season. All right, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.